Hey guys! This video I'm going to be talking about what my Oxford PPE philosophy interview experience was like. Hey guys, it's modern day Chloe. Now it's currently June 2019. All the videos that you're about to see are shot from December or January 2018 to 2019. And so it's been a while. As you can see by I look a little different, my hair length's different, all of that. But don't worry, I did get into Oxford PPE. So I received my acceptance notice into Hartford College at around January 10th. But I'm currently a freshman at Uchicago. I just finished my first year. So I mainly post videos about Uchicago, also about Oxford. I did IB in high school. I also post about MUN, debate, my lifestyle in college, live applications, all of that fun stuff. This video is about my philosophy interview. I have an econ interview coming. I also have my interview examination, my preparation tips, etc., etc. There are 10 more Oxford videos coming. So yeah, that's something you might be interested in. Feel free to comment and subscribe. I have talked about my overall experience in another video, and I've also talked about my politics experience in just the recent video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about what I was asked in my philosophy interview. So first off, I don't study philosophy. There is IB philosophy, but our school doesn't offer IB philosophy, so I don't take it. My preparation for the interview is, although covered in the Oxford interview prep video, very simple. And so when I was walking into the interview room, it was definitely more of a nerve-wracking experience. So I went into the building. The professor was a female and a male, and they were both really nice, especially the male professor. His presence was very calming. His voice was very deep and calming, and for Hartford College, I think among all the professors that I met, he was definitely the most friendly one. Off the bat, I was already very more relaxed, especially since it was my first interview. I got my philosophy interview first, followed by my econ interview, and then my politics interview, and then another econ interview. Once you go in, I sit down on the sofa, he sits in the armchair, she is leading by a wooden desk. We jump right into the pre-interview examination that we took yesterday, so the day before. And he flips through the philosophy section, and even though I cover what's in the interview examination in the other video, for philosophy there are mainly two parts. One is the one with all the syllogisms, and one is more philosophical questions, short answer questions. So first we jump into the syllogisms, and I'm pretty sure I got a good number of them wrong because And he asked me, oh, for question F, tell me about your thought process. And then question F was something like, if some A's are B's, but not all B's are C's, are all A's necessarily C's? Something like that, okay? There were 30 questions that were all like this. And my approach to those questions was simply to replace each A, B, and C with a word, and then drawing Venn diagrams. So basically Venn diagrams that includes circles within circles, and of course circles crossing over other circles. And I explained that to him, and then he asked me, do you think that's an accurate method? Now, I knew before I went into this philosophy interview that one of the major things about interviews that you have to remember is that they want to see your process of changing and learning. They want to give you new conditions or changes to your answers, and they want to see if you can adapt to that kind of thinking. So going in, so the first thing I said was, no, I think there could be a better method. And he asked me, what better method do you think, and could you redo this many questions? So I did, and as I did the questions, I talked out loud, and I was like, assuming A is this, something, something, something. And I answered the questions, and apparently he was satisfied with my answers, because then we moved on. So by then, around 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes have already passed. Apparently the secret was that you shouldn't be substituting words into the letters, because words, they have a logical sequence to them. Anyhow, he wanted me to get that conclusion that thinking in the abstract is better in this case, and we moved on. And then the female professor asked me a question next. We were still talking about the examination that I took, and instead she focused, of all the short answers, she focused on my answer to a question asking, is this art? And it was a picture of the toilet bowl, the very famous postmodernist art piece. I can't recall the artist's name off the top of my head, but I will put a picture of it here. very standard philosophy question. If you do TOK, I do TOK. I was like, oh ho ho ho, I can talk all day about this. I almost did my TOK presentation on this topic. But essentially I wrote like a really short answer about norms and about how the position of different paintings and things like that would determine whether a piece is art or not. So she asked me to elaborate on my answer, and I did. I told her that art pieces, if taken out of context, devalue its position. People think art is art because it's in a museum or because it's a certain setting. If you take that toilet bowl and you put it on the street, people would think it's discarded garbage. But if you take it and you put it in a museum, people are more inclined to think that it's art because it has received like societal validation, stuff like that. Okay? And then she asked me, then putting all that societal evaluation aside, what do you think constitutes art? And I remember thinking for a couple seconds, and I was prompted after three seconds, which was pretty fast. It was quite, at that point I was a little nervous, basically saying that I think art can be classified by the technique, the intention, but yet on the other hand, it can also, like, you also can't say that if you have an intent to create art, that is necessarily a piece of art. Like, for example, if I say I want to invoke ideas of like chaos and race relations, and I draw a dot on a piece of paper to convey that, it's a big jump. You can say that that is art, but then you'll have to I basically brought up as many aspects of the issue as I could. That's basically TOK training right there. Bring up as many different perspectives on the issue as possible, yet talk about them in a way that you're not deviating from the question. So that was that. By then, I think around 10 minutes have passed. There were a couple back and forths about art. She also brought up like other pieces of art, and then we rotated to her again. We rotated to like another section on the exam where she asked me, what do you think constitutes that triangle? So it was a black background, and there were black triangles, like 3 inverted black triangles. So obviously there was like a white triangle in the middle, and then the question was like, is the white area a triangle? So obviously it's not actually asking you whether it's a triangle or not. Like, it's not asking you is it a square or a circle, but it's more asking you, can something be defined by what it's not, right? Black and white. That's how I interpret it. So that's what I wrote. She asked me, do you think it's a triangle? And like, what kind of picture do you think this is? And I answered her by saying optical illusion, but I also think this manifests in society in this ways. Yeah. So I had this idea before my philosophy interview that I wanted to be as different from the other applicants as possible by trying to connect these ideas and these questions that they're asking me with things in real life, like more like substantive issues. That's why I kept bringing up as many examples as I could of like other pieces of artwork that were controversial. The Prada Marfa. Oh my god, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically the fake Prada shop in the desert that's, people are like, is this a piece of art? It's not, it's a parody, all that. And there's also 4433, the silent music orchestra piece with nothing else other than people flipping pages and coughing and things like that. So I brought all of those up as examples to substantiate, and for the triangle question I also kind of did this. So by then 13 minutes have passed. By then I only had about 3 minutes left, and then the male professor asked me another question. So he looked at my PS, my personal statement for UCAS, and then he asked me, I see here that you've been talking about, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Bertrand Russell. I wrote about them, referenced my UCAS video, and he was like, what did you mean when you said that Bertrand Russell's writing style is anti-monist? Now, thank God I researched this beforehand, because even though I could have answered his question without research, I definitely could not have answered it with that degree of specificity. So I was prepared for this question, the only question I was prepared for. And so I answered him. I was like, Bertrand Russell, I know, is usually thought of as a monist philosopher. However, in this case, I was talking about neutral monism, and thus his writings, for example, in this particular book, and then the professor was like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. All right, yeah. Thankfully, I did that. Yeah. And then that's basically the end of the interview. It was like 22 minutes, and then when it was over, he was like, I think that's all the questions we have. And throughout the process, I was pretty relaxed. I was like really comfy on a sofa, and then I stood up, shook their hands again, and then I went out. Yeah, that's basically it. I know it sounds really casual when I'm thinking in retrospect, but before the interview and like the few days and the few weeks even before the interview, I was completely nerve-wracked. If you want to know how I prepared for my Oxford interviews, you can go watch that video, but essentially, that's my philosophy interview. I hope it helps. whether you're having a philosophy interview or whether you're having a PPE series of interviews. So yeah, still need an outro, but I'm improving. So like and subscribe.